what it mean to be the best. Riding foes, feeling unimpressed. Make me reminisce, throwing bows, bend the corner, set my mind up on the goal. All I know is stay down, bad, I'm the goal. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now ain't no debate. Yeah. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Now ain't no debate. Yeah. I ain't gotta say much. Know the boy got a touch. Another win for the rush. Another win for the rush. See me once and got a crush. See you twice and that's enough. Get the ring sized up.
Welcome in. We are back. Tell the Truth, episode 83. It is July 8th or 7th? Yes, 8th. My bad. It's July 8th. We are past the point of, just the dog days of summer. And now St. Joe's is around the corner and close. Not close enough, but it is around the corner. The Chiefs report to training camp in July 21st. They do have a deadline that we'll discuss a little bit later on in the show in between then. But today, we are going to be doing a Kansas City Chiefs roster reset, kind of recapping what has been done in the offseason, what has changed since last season, what the Chiefs hope to have happen, answering a few questions at each of these positions with some film thrown in for some of the key guys that are going to end up being X factors as far as each of these spots are concerned. So how you guys doing, man? DG, CJ, we're in summertime, man.
Doing well. Today is me and my wife's 8th wedding anniversary. So blessed to see 8 years of marriage, man. Today has been a great day. So yeah, man. Excited football is almost back too.
Black love, we love to see it.
Yes. Happy anniversary, to Gigi and his wife. And shout out to his wife for allowing him to come on the podcast.
We appreciate it. You could have told me.
You could have been doing other stuff, but you know.
You should have said, no, not today. No, we appreciate it.
We truly do appreciate it. My excuse was going to be just to watch Love Island. So
I was going to watch Netflix quarterback show.
We'll get into that. We will get into that because we had a few interesting things come out of that one as well.
Oh boy.
Shout out to Kim guys in the chat. Look, man, we have a little bit to talk about. The first thing, just to kind of start off, because I it feels like since we had ended up going on a little bit of a hiatus and didn't necessarily talk about this, but we did end up having a trade in the NFL to talk about. That would be Mr. Jaylon Ramsey and Jonnu Smith getting swapped out for Minka Fitzpatrick. No, wait, it's not. Yeah, no, Minka Fitzpatrick. Oh, Lord Jesus. You could tell we took the holiday off. But Jaylon Ramsey, Jonnu Smith swapped out for Minka Fitzpatrick, which Minka, funny enough, goes right back to the Miami Dolphins. Ultimately, the Steelers had a tight end that they kind of needed to go with, Pat Freiermuth, and obviously Jaylon Ramsey kind of being a headliner to take over a little bit more of the responsibilities. What was your guys' initial reaction to the trade between the Steelers and the Dolphins?
The first half, I was like, dang, you really got rid of Minka? Just for that? I was like, that's a lot just for Minka, just for Jaylon. But then as it went on, I'm like, okay, a pick swap, Jonnu Smith. And then I heard some reports coming out that they weren't going to re-sign Minka after his after his current contract. I think he had a year or two left on his deal. So they weren't. I think he didn't have any more guaranteed money. So I started to hear more things about how they didn't really want to re-sign him or extend him. And they still haven't even paid TJ Watt his new money. So I get why they moved off Minka. But originally I was like, well, if you're going to trade Minka Fitzpatrick, in my opinion, we all agree he's a top 5 safety. So I would agree. I would think he would get more of the value than just an old Jaylon Ramsey and a pick swap. But then they started adding Jonnu, and then the money started to make sense. So after they split it into 2 alerts instead of just 1, that kind of confused me. So.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird the way that they reported it. First, it was Jaylon Ramsey going to the Steelers, and then it was Jaylon Ramsey getting traded for Minka, and then it was Jaylon Ramsey and Jonnu. So
it was like one by one. I was like, why can't you just say this at once?
And then they included the late round swap of a 5th and the 7th round pick. So yeah, it was a little weird the way it came out. DG, what about you?
Initially, I wasn't shocked about Jaylon getting moved. I was a little bit more shocked about Minka getting moved. I kind of had a feeling Jaylon would get moved just because we had been hearing reports about him wanting to leave, Miami anyway. So I had a feeling that was coming. I didn't think it'd be the Steelers per se. I thought maybe it'd be another NFC team that would jump in and get Jaylon. But as far as what the question who won the trade. I really can't decide because I think Minka's still a very good player, but I also kind of think he's on the back end of his prime, in my opinion. I think Jaylon is still a very valuable player too, in a
It's not
certain
even
sense.
so
But
far, honestly. It's not really like
yeah, I don't think anybody really won. Um,
yeah.
I think for the Steelers' sake, that they get a little bit better of a piece in a sense of they can kind of move Jaylon around in certain areas, play the nickel. I know he can play in the box a little bit. He's just getting to that point to me in his career where he's kind of gonna be in that what you say that what they call star position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big dime.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they
where he's essentially like a linebacker almost.
Basically.
yeah, and
But yeah, I don't
they had they had used Minka a lot as far as the safety position more recently within their defensive scheme, and it kind of got to a point where he didn't match as much as what they necessarily needed. So Jaylon can give you a little bit of that outside cornerback, and then the safety versatility that fits in it. I mean, ultimately, like the Steelers won the trade because I think that they probably got a little bit of better value out the deal, and they maybe got slightly better. But ultimately, I don't think that this changes what they are, and I don't think this changes what the Dolphins are. I think the Dolphins are going to be a bad team, and I think the Steelers are going to be a mid team that's hovering around 500 once again. So that's me personally how I feel about it.
They both
Any
teams
other
save
thing?
money. I don't think neither team really. They both. I kind of think it's like a win-win because Miami didn't want to pay Jonnu, which is kind of crazy. I think he earned his money the way he played last year. To Pittsburgh Steelers, from what reports I said, like DG, they didn't want to pay Minka or extend him after his current deal, which I think is also kind of crazy because I think I know he had a down year the last couple of years, but that's still Minka Fitzpatrick. But I think both teams got what they wanted. We didn't want to pay this guy. We didn't want to pay him. Move on to a better team. Everybody gets to kind of get the piece for the future that they feel comfortable with paying. So I think it's kind of win-win.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Joey, we will happily answer this question when we get to the wide receivers because that will be a key piece of it. Other news. I'm actually going
New
to.
news.
I'm actually. What'd you say?
That's copyrighted. We can't say that.
No,
My fault,
is it
Trav.
copyrighted?
Don't sue
I
me,
don't
bro.
know if it's copyrighted. Please don't sue us.
He'll be
We
all
can't
right.
afford it.
Nah,
I'm gonna borrow the solo screen real quick. I'm sorry, guys, to just get you
Where's my
guys out of
camera?
there.
Where's my camera?
I'm going to give you guys a nice PSA, and you can see it at the bottom. This is my
shit.
annual top 100 PSA. Annual top 100 PSA, guys. This list doesn't matter. It never has mattered. It never will matter. This list is made up of NFL players in the middle of November getting a sheet with 20 names on it, throwing their friends or people that they know in the league or teammates that they feel like they want to give shout outs to on the list, and then they average it out and put it out there. And they know it's not really a good ranking, but that's by design because it ultimately gets people talking about it. So yes, this started because of the Creed Humphrey ranking, which obviously having the best center in the league in the 90s makes zero sense. It happens. Don't get upset about it. You're going to see all manner of these guys either left off the list, not even close to the list, not where they should be ranked. You know, Patrick Mahomes is not going to be probably in the top 5 for no good reason. So it is what it is. I'm just telling you guys, ain't no PSA. You don't have to pay attention to it. I know you guys will anyway, but that's my annual PSA, and I just wanted to get out the way. Now that we are in the beginning stage of this list being released, which it's insane the way that's being released, by the way. The fact that they're doing it like once a day over to the stupid. But
everybody
just
do it all at once, bro.
Stupid. Just dumb. I hate it. It's
Do
dumb.
it the way you used to do it. You used to do it what?
10 by 10. It was
10
like
by 10. Like just
plenty
do it that way. Like,
or just do it all at once. But this little week by day thing is stupid.
It's dumb. The list is dumb, and you don't have to pay attention to it if you don't want to. We'll be in training camp soon enough. That's my top 100 PSA for the year. Last thing before we go ahead and get into this depth chart aspect of it. We had a clip come out from the Netflix quarterback documentary that's in its 3rd season that CJ referenced earlier, in which Steve Spagnuolo made a point to go up to Joe Burrow after the Bengals and Chiefs game last season and say that he felt like he was the toughest guy at the quarterback position outside of his guy, of course, Patrick Mahomes. And that was exactly the point that CJ made. Me personally, I have almost zero interest in this season of quarterback. They've got Kirk Cousins back again for God knows what reason. I forgot. Is Jared Goff the other guy, the third person?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm good. I don't need that.
Kirk was on the first season, wasn't he?
Kirk going too.
Kirk was on the first season.
Yeah, why they bring him back?
I don't.
Brother, y'all think he gonna say no? What else he gonna do? His agent
sit on the
like,
bench
you wanna be a
apparently.
quarterback
Anyway.
again? He's like, shit, I'll do it. They gonna pay me.
He said, I was caught off guard by them taking a young quarterback. Well, yes, sir. You were 40 coming off of an Achilles tear.
I'm lying, Kirk.
Anyway, you just thought you were going to have the job forever, I suppose. He said, I could have stayed in Minnesota for all this. Yeah.
And you thought he was going to give you the guaranteed spot too?
They gave him the guaranteed money, didn't they?
They did do that. They did do that.
And Joe Burrow's the other guy, which Joe Burrow is moderately interesting, but I'm good.
That's the only one that makes sense. It should have been like Joe, and maybe the other guys we wanted said no. Because I think when we first watched the 1-2 years ago, I think we all talked about this. Like, what quarterback would you want to see? I'm like, most of the guys are probably going to say no. They don't want extra cameras around them.
But there are high end guys that obviously would probably say no. But I'm sure you could find a more interesting mid-tier quarterback than Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins.
For sure.
Like, I know you can do better.
Baker would have been nice.
I would have rather watched Baker. Much rather watch
Baker.
I'd rather watch Russell Wilson and the Steelers than do this shit. For sure.
Russ, absolutely. Lord knows Rodgers wouldn't have said yes.
But Kirk and Jared is so unnecessary.
Yeah, it's just it's bland. It is what it is. It's Coles. Go ahead, DJ.
I kind of did have an idea. I think that next year they should do a show rookie and follow from the draft.
Rookie player.
Yeah, through the whole process of high end rookie, first round rookies they're gonna play into their season and see how
They already do the rookie watch thing, which is the same thing in the offseason. So
I was gonna say they do have something similar to that.
I think that'd be really interesting.
That'd be a dope idea. They've expanded.
Or second year quarterbacks would have been cool. Jaden Daniels,
sophomores,
Williams,
all the ideas. You've expanded from training camp to off-season training camp to in-season hard knocks. So why not expand the quarterback one to rookie guys? So I love that. That'd be dope.
Yeah, and then this would obviously be. Yeah. And this would obviously be
this class, boy. This would be a lot of good guys.
I was going to say this would be an interesting class to go ahead and do that for, of course. Well, I don't think that there was any plans for it, but hey, you never know what happens.
We giving them idea. They stole that from DG.
I'll be interested to see if they go from what was a wide receiver thing last year, or I shouldn't say wide receiver.
I love
receiver in general, a receiver thing in general last year, and if they decide to go to a different position, like. Or they just keep picking with quarterback. They have.
Can't hear you, DMac.
DMac, you underwater?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah, you back.
Boy, okay. Ocean for me.
That's unfortunate. But yeah, no, they just got to choose better quarterbacks if they do stick with that position moving forward, as far as that's concerned. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to get to before we go ahead and move on?
No.
Are we gonna bring up the clip?
The clip?
You want to see the clip of Spagnuolo?
No, I was just. Are we gonna? We wasn't gonna discuss.
I'm legitimately lost. What clip are you talking about?
Oh, I was talking about the pass interference call.
Oh, okay, yes.
DG a messy nigga. I knew he was talking about that.
No, I'm actually glad. I'm glad that you reminded me of that.
Yeah,
we not gonna show it.
I don't have the clip, DG. If you want to send it to me quickly so we can bring it up, but I do. I can find it.
You can search it. Yeah, it's on Twitter.
I know. Yeah, I know. I seen the quote earlier.
Rashee Rice pass interference. You can find that one.
I guess we're not. Chiefs fans aren't delusional after all, huh?
Joe Burrow said, I would be mad if I could get that. So your own quarterback said he would have wanted that call too, you dummies. But if somebody else says, "Oh, we're being haters," but your quarterback would have wanted the same shit, you bozos.
But it was a phantom call.
It's a phantom call. I should have called that. We would never ask for that call.
It's on his back.
This is the
I would have wanted that call too. Duh.
In these games, you have calls that go against you. You have calls that go their way. That's part of football. If it was me, I would have been upset if I didn't get that pass interference call. And this was in reference to the Rashee Rice pass interference call that ultimately allowed the Chiefs' drive at the end of the game to continue and for them to end up ultimately winning that game. Which, you know what? I've seen Joe Burrow get that call before. in a more important game called the
Bruh.
AFC Championship game, and it negated an interception that Brian Cook had. But
Bruh.
it is what it is.
Don't ever talk to
I
me.
understand why he would have wanted that call, because by the letter of the rule, when you get there early as a defensive back, you get called for pass interference. And
Like,
so
y'all didn't get a false start call on the goal line in front of the whole world in Cincinnati when everybody saw him move. And so now we just acting like y'all don't get called. Okay. All right. That's cool. I love their fans. They're so funny. They're hilarious.
Delusion.
Delusion. Top tier delusion. Act like they don't never get called. It's cool.
That's all. That's all I wanted to bring up.
Shout out to the jungle, man. Y'all funny, man. Y'all making fun.
I'm glad that you brought that up, DG, because I had left it off the rundown and forgot about it. But that is a very good point. So, Joe Burrow says that he agrees with the call, which, I had to defend our calls, unfortunately, in my DMs because an Eagles fan was being idiotic and annoyed me to the point in which I did not just ignore him. So anyway, totally different conversation. We will now get to the Chiefs roster reset as far as the depth chart is concerned. And the quarterback depth chart has undergone one specific change as far as the Chiefs are concerned. And obviously that is out with Chiefs, week 18 starter, I guess would be the qualifier I'd put in front of it. Carson Wentz, as he is currently still a free agent, funny enough. The Chiefs then brought in one Mr. Gardner Minshew of Jacksonville Jaguars fame, and Bailey Zappi as well, who was a draft pick by the Patriots a few years back, and spent some time on Cleveland last year. Chris Oladokun is still hanging around and will be the fourth quarterback in camp as well. So the question I'll ask this, and we will get to the Patrick Mahomes film aspect of this in a bit. Gardner Minshew, Bailey Zappi, do you expect any manner of competition there? Or do you think this is simply Minshew's job? Bailey Zappi is going to be a practice squad guy. And is there anything really that you want to see from Minshew during preseason or camp?
No.
Minshew mania.
No, it's Minshew's job. I mean, he can lose it if he plays bad. But for me, it's Minshew's job to lose. Zappi is still, to me, a kind of a wait in progress and see what kind of happens with him. I think it's a good option to have on the practice squad in case something does happen. In case something catastrophic ends up happening. But yeah, I think so far it's Minshew's job to kind of lose. Yeah,
Minshew mania.
He's a little bit better.
Headband and all, stash. Probably gonna wear his boots with the jorts. Yeah, it's Minshew's job. He's been a starter, been consistent, had a lot more reps under his belt than Bailey Zappi. So hope he never sees the field outside of a, playoff seeding, division locked up game like last year, week 18 situation. So, but yeah, anybody that I would, for the QB2, it should be him. So I think, that's his job to lose. So as long as he just doesn't go out there and do anything stupid, like DG said, don't make no mistakes, play mistake-free football, and just matriculate the ball down the field, make good decisions, stay out the way, no distractions, he'll be QB2 holding the clipboard.
And I do believe, in case of emergency, of course, that he is a better quarterback than Carson Wentz. So
absolutely today for sure, absolutely.
You got to step in for a game or two. Andy Reid can scheme it up enough for that to be serviceable to get us through it as well. So on to the Patrick Mahomes film element of this, and of course, Patrick Mahomes has been the topic of great number of discussion after having a second season of statistical. Falling short of expectations. I would not say it's on tape because it's 2023 tape doesn't necessarily say that. It was more the surroundings in that case. Even with the issues that we had on offense in 2024 surrounding what he did, the way I wanted to approach this is kind of twofold. DP had mentioned wanting to look at some of the Houston Texans tape, which I think is really good tape to look at, specifically how good I should say the Texans defensive roster is and is expected to be next year. I included the Denver Broncos tape as well because I thought it was a little bit indicative for both of these defenses that are excellent as far as the perimeter is concerned and really good up front and challenge you to make very difficult throws really to the intermediate portions of the field. And so what I did is I kind of put together a compilation of the intermediate air yards specifically throws that Patrick Mahomes had against the Denver Broncos in that first matchup because he only played them once, and the Houston Texans, both the regular season and the postseason. And there's a few things as we go through this that I will highlight, and we can obviously talk together through this as well. I do believe that this is going to be the two best defenses that we're going to see, next year. And I think the Ravens are really good, but I would still have them ahead of them. Do you guys have any disagreement as far as that's concerned?
No, I'm in full agreement. Denver's gonna be the toughest defense you probably face all year.
Those are the top two for sure. But right now, based off familiarity, yeah, Denver has to be number one because they see us so much. So that'll be Denver. Baltimore will be a tough matchup as well when you add a guy like Jay Alexander and add Malik Starks, which is a crazy combo to add to an already good defense. But these guys specifically right here see us so often. They know all of our motions. They know all of the things we like to do, especially in third down and in the red zone. So this will be the tougher defense for me if I had to pick one for sure.
Yeah, and I do want to highlight here, like again, the intermediate passing game being a big piece of this, but the ability to, be able to bring that front down, get those eyes from the linebackers, the second, level, looking in the wrong direction, specifically if you have a run defense, threat as far as that's concerned, which our run game was efficient last year, but not explosive, especially as we got later on to the year, wasn't even efficient at a certain point as well, after Joe Tooney had to kick out. But you have to be able to bring those guys in, and then also, even if you don't have the actual deep completions, just give them the threat of that as well. And so this is an example, little play action out of some 12 personnel with Noah Gray playing the fullback role. Travis Kelce on a route that we've seen, plenty of times, just playing that corner and being able to stretch him deep with Jaylon Watson to open up that portion. Kareem Hunt underneath kind of holds the linebacker, and linebacker can't get out to that corner. And, Travis Kelce, who even took a step backwards, still can be able to convert those plays as well. And we'll see it from a reverse angle. A little bit of motion to kind of, get the defense looking the wrong way. Offensive line does a pretty good job of protection here, providing a really solid pocket. No issues as far as that's concerned. And that's one of the things when you see on tape a lot. When Patrick Mahomes is kept clean as far as the pocket is concerned, there wasn't issues last year. But that's the theme of the entirety of the season as far as that's concerned. And, the other thing is you'll see this interspersed throughout some of these plays, but this is an example of the magic still being there for Mahomes, where things can go wrong, guys can be covered, and he could still make it happen. As he makes, Zach Allen there miss, Suamataia P. did a really good job on the scramble drill, being able to break himself open there, and Mahomes able to get outside the pocket to create an explosive play, which he had to do a lot of last year. Or I shouldn't say he had to do a lot of. He was actually missing a lot of that element of it last year because the play was unfortunately over too quickly from that aspect. So he shrugs off Nick Bonito. Is able to make that play to Samaje Perine. And I will show this from the reverse angle just really quickly to show, just watch the top of the screen, because this is the shot that he was going to take to Xavier Worthy. Didn't necessarily feel great about that shot there.
That footage safety, he could have got that one.
Yeah, and some of this is a part of the left tackle losing in this moment, which I think maybe spooked him a little bit, and just the needed trust that him and Xavier Worthy needed to continue to work on as the season went on, which we saw a little bit later on in the season too. I'm continuing to talk, but do you guys have anything specifically that you want to add as far as Patrick Mahomes, kind of in the larger context of playing versus these difficult matchups and being able to throw the ball to the intermediate area of the field?
And for us, I mean, we see it so often. Like, we see it so often.
It becomes normal.
It just becomes normal. Like, it's not and that's not to be a cocky or anything like that. It's just he does it so often.
Great touch. Oh my god.
I hate hearing people saying the down year, and I understand, like, yeah, the statistics weren't there or whatever, but you have to look at a full context of things that are happening on the field. If he even has comparable left tackle play last year, I think his numbers are a lot better than they were. He just was working with so much that was going on the field last year that they didn't make a lot. It still went 15-2.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I do think, and CJ, I'm gonna get your thoughts here in a second, but I did want to pause it here. This is an example of how Patrick Mahomes has evolved as a quarterback and being able to win with his mind. Here, he is, making the determination, hey, we are going to slide, obviously away from it. He knows the play is going to end up going to that flood side of the field, to the boundary side, because it's on the right hash. And I'll show this for first time because I think it's important to see it here. So he slides away from it. He knows where the route combination is going to be. he knows if they're going to send an extra guy from that side, then that means that's one less guy to deal with that flood concept. And this is all diagnosed pre-snap. So he's saying, hey, if you guys block it up this way and they send an extra guy, then I'm responsible for being able to make the throw with that blitzer in his face. And that's exactly what he does. And he puts it right on the money. And that's an understanding that he has been able to do with his comfortability in this offense, and being able to spend time there. So he can account for things that other quarterbacks are still trying to, obviously learn how to do. And certainly within this offense, he has a mastery to a point where he can be able to adjust on the fly to those sorts of aspects of it. And so, Justin Watson deep, Xavier Worthy underneath, DeAndre Hopkins uncovers on that corner route.
I love it. I love our bunch sets. I've said this from the beginning. Anytime we stack our bunch, that's when we get the most explosiveness out of this group, especially when you have guys like Hollywood, ironically, who's in this play right here. We have him, Zay, all bunched up together. Then you add a guy like Rashee to that. It's almost pick your poison at that point. Who do you want to let get the ball? So, and it brings so much confusion, especially from teams like Houston, like Denver, like DMac earlier, who love to play man. So you're just trying to make them get confused and get their eyes mixed up, get guys caught in traffic. And that's clearly what they do here. Obviously, Zay gives them a good release, gives Hollywood a clear go to this corner or sail route, and lets them get out there and make a play.
Yeah. And like you said, you mentioned the man portion of this, and I broke this down in season as well. They're locked up here, and the Texans want to be aggressive. They're adding a fifth rusher, both to occupy Creed and also be a little bit of a spy on Mahomes. They got the deep high safety to make sure nothing gets over the top. And, the reality situation is it's very difficult to defend a bunch set with man. It just is, especially when you have the speed out there of a Xavier Worthy, of a Hollywood Brown as well. And ultimately, like, no grays are wasted on the backside here, but this is about what happens on the front side of this bunch set. And Hollywood Brown gets himself pretty well open there, and Mahomes hits him on the money, and that's a nice explosive play. And that's always going to be the sort of design and read offense that Mahomes can take advantage of.
Yeah, I honestly think that this, when getting to this portion of the year, this is honestly probably one of his more efficient games of the year, where he actually did get comparable offensive line play, and you've seen when he's able to be protected, how efficient he can be in the passing game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to add, as far as this game is concerned, or these three games, I should say, is concerned, the Chiefs did not complete a deep pass throughout the entirety of this game. So that's kind of what, even not necessarily being able to complete it, but just having the threat of the speed out there can do. Obviously, last year was Justin Watson for a good portion of it, and Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown for a very brief stretch, even though we didn't use him as much there. But you be able to bring in a guy like Jaylon Royals that can get down the field. You obviously use him in more of that Justin Watson role. And then you add the Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown element there together for a full season after Worthy's development, and then obviously Rashee Rice underneath. Then those things come a little bit more into focus. But the fact that we were able to complete these intermediate passes, even without that aspect of it, is pretty impressive as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
And like you said, great route by Trav. Once again, just filling the space in the open zone. Mahomes rolls out to create that window.
First.
Recognizes the single high.
They try to give it a gap look, backed out of it.
Yeah, they backed out of it to a little bit of a cover three. Or maybe even cover three. It's cover three. And then again, Texans run a really well-oiled machine. Rather, the situation is, this is what I think Kelsey is going to be, where you're not going to see a whole lot of peppering of targets, maybe not necessarily, but there are going to be these key money downs, like you see here, is 3rd and 10, where Mahomes is looking to Kelsey to convert. And I think that that's a formula where the wide receivers are the primary guys, and we'll talk about this more as we get into the weapons. And Kelsey is the guy that moves the sticks. That's a formula next year that's going to end up working for us pretty effectively.
Mm-hmm. Brought forward, drop. Pat got out of it. He knew where he wanted to go immediately. Travis.
Yeah, I think once he sees the safeties kind of rotate down to that cover 3 look, I think he kind of knew where he was already going to see. He's kind of pointing in that direction anyway.
And look, that's the thing with this, maybe assuming to be Kelsey's last year. that's the mind melt him and Kelsey have, where you just trust him that he's going to end up getting into the zone. And shout out Noah Gray here, does a really good job sealing that edge with Daniil Hunter. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the weapon depth chart as well. The last one I included here, at least from the Texans game specifically, is this man-to-man route to DeAndre Hopkins at the bottom of the screen. And this, obviously, DeAndre Hopkins has a very specific skill set and a skill set that was useful last year. But I don't think that this is a throw that is just outside the realm of possibility from the standpoint of this. We've seen Rashee Rice be successful down the field, catching that deep target versus Cincinnati. I think Jalen Royals can give guys a little bit of issues as far as being able to try and cover deep as far as that's concerned. So these throws, and we've seen it with Juju too, these throws may, continue to be infrequent, but it's not like they're not available. It's just about if the wide receivers can make them happen, because Mahomes understands the timing of them very well. And obviously DeAndre Hopkins, being the veteran that he is, can always convert those. And I think now we are into the playoff game here versus the Houston Texans. Chiefs come out a little bit of a full house look and kind of mix it up here with Noah Gray going over to the right side. And this is just another way to get into those flood concepts that we love to go to as far as Travis Kelce is concerned, with Xavier Worthy stretching the field deep.
It's Sirski. Another bunch stat concept, but DMac said just to get them confused, just to get their eyes looking in the wrong area. Obviously, anytime you get Travis free release, everybody's looking at Pat instead of looking at him. Easy money.
Yeah, when you come out of that full house, that second level, because you can see 39, and they're playing pretty much a dime defense in this case versus a 12 personnel set. 39, 23, those guys, 27, also you can include them. These are 8 guys in the box, and you can see where their first steps end up coming forward as far as this play is concerned. They're expecting some type of run play to Pacheco, and then you just give enough of those false steps to get Travis Kelce to sneak in behind, and Mahomes can put it on the money there. So go ahead, DG.
No, I was saying this is when Chiefs get to playoff football, you always see a different wrinkle, a different
critique.
Yeah, they went to the back of the playbook for this one. And I think that's one of those things where they always save a couple things for teams to give different looks. You just played this team, not even
less than 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I think they kind of knew that you were going to have to give them something else to kind of look at, and just very well executed once they get into the playoffs, man.
Absolutely. Especially like D-Man said, when they go into those dime personnel and they have a lot of DBs on the field, you want to add tight ends to kind of offset that, because now you're thinking, okay, we have to be overactive to any run action, so then you can slip out the tight end. That's the good thing about having 2 to 3 tight ends, and hopefully we can see a lot more of that this year with guys like Brenningstool, and hopefully Jared Wiley is healthy as well, to where we can get some of those assets that we can use and take advantage of those, especially in big-time games like this in the playoffs for sure.
I will say one thing. This deep safety back here, this long, deep safety, that's going to be disrespectful this year.
You got to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
I think,
especially with number 5 and number 1 on the field, you got to take
the complement of weapons that you have this year. You should take that as a sign of disrespect.
Absolutely. Especially on the 30, boy.
Especially, when we transition from the years of Tyreek Hill, seeing the cover 2s and things of that nature, to go into offensive, death by paper cuts or whatever. I think this year now you're going to see that explosion come back into this offense again, and that safety, that deep safety is getting cooked this year.
This is a big green zone. This is Hollywood Zay time right now for sure. I can get a deep over, get an X release, scissor release, whatever you want to do. But if they do want to play single high with number 5 and number 1 on the field, they both should eat for sure.
You can get comfortable tackle play and have your complementary receivers healthy. Good night.
It's of course a little different when you have Juju at the top of the screen locked up with Darius Staley.
Respect Juju.
Of course, no, respect to Juju. But compared to when it could be Rashee Rice down here up here at the top of the screen instead. Now, again, you talk about obviously the wrinkles that the Chiefs like to bring out when it comes down to playoff football. And of course, that includes Xavier Worthy here in the backfield. And this is just another way to kind of get him in a little bit of a favorable matchup. They do a little sidestep motion, get Xavier Worthy on a little bit of a slot fade there, and Xavier Worthy makes an excellent play. Mahomes puts it on the money, and this is indicative again of the growth throughout the entirety of the season of trusting Xavier Worthy in some of these one-on-one moments to be able to make a play. And they obviously say, hey, we know it's going to be man coverage. Mahomes says, all right, well, I feel like if I give you a ball with leverage, you're going to go up and get the ball. That's exactly what Xavier ends up doing. And for all the talk about Xavier Worthy being light, for Xavier Worthy being a gadget receiver, a guy that can't get the job done, he had this catch, and then he had to get a catch versus the Bills. That was a contested catch situation. He's a real wide receiver, folks. This isn't Mecole Hardman. This isn't Kadarius Toney. Respectfully to both of those guys, but this is a real wide receiver that understands how to get the job done. And he came up big throughout the entirety of down the stretch. We saw it in all 3 playoff games, even with the Super Bowl, given the circumstances. Xavier Worthy can step up, and Mahomes trusts him to do so as well. This is more traditional of a route here, but this is indicative once again when you have 1 in 5 on the field, the teams feel like there is a horizontal stretch that ends up happening as far as the middle of the field is concerned, and so the teams are really concerned about those crossers or those mesh concepts that end up giving them issues. So what they do with Xavier and Hollywood Brown, they just say, hey, we're going to run mesh return and see how they can end up dealing with it. And ultimately, as far as this is concerned, they run that mesh return. The middle linebackers are concerned, bro. They're lost. He's out the way looking at Noah Gray. He's dealing with Xavier Worthy and the running back to the bottom of the screen, and all that leaves is 87 with a whole lot of green grass and one man to beat, which he ends up doing. Runs through another tackle, gets himself open. Travis Kelce rumbling and stumbling down to the 5. And so that horizontal stretch aspect of having Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown on the field is a really big piece of what this offense can bring to the table. And that opens things up for 87, opens things up for Noah Gray, and opens things up for a healthy Rashee Rice as well, which we never got to see last year.
Gotta respect it. Gotta respect that speed. Get him 87. Get them old legs. Pick them knees up. Travis, if I was 10 years younger, I would score.
You better get him, Trey. You better
get him.
You better get him, Trey.
You better get him, Trey.
Travis was so tired after that play. I know he was sucking wind. He's like,
oh, absolutely.
Man, I'm tired.
Hey, look, and this is, hey, you want to play man-to-man coverage? This is great, but even 36-year-old Travis Kelce, ain't too many corners that can stick with Travis Kelce, and that's the reality of the situation. Little dig route, I'm going to get open. It's going to be open. I'm going to go right around you. I'm going to get it inside the 10 again, man.
Hey, 10 catches for 100 yards in the tutty. Old man still got it every now and then. Could rev up the engine a couple times.
Don't get me wrong. The Broncos have a good DB room. Obviously, adding Barron to it. The Ravens have a good DB room. Texans have a good DB room. You're not going to find any teams that got the guys to match up man-to-man with the complement of receivers that we have in general to go and get it. And so Travis Kelce beating that Bullock one-on-one there is indicative of that. Going to get Kelce motioning to the bottom of the screen with a little bit of a bunch here. And this, of course, is the magic portion of it. And I wanted to end on this one just a reminder. Like, Mahomes can do this. These are things that Mahomes can do. And people acting like this still isn't the best quarterback in the league.
He is down here.
He had it down here. Give me that.
He can fall down and put the ball right behind your middle linebacker.
On the
without
money.
A problem.
Yes.
Perfect spot.
Burrow can do that.
Right in between the 8 and the 7, by the way. On the money.
With a D lineman hanging on his leg. Come on, man. Stop playing with him.
So that's the Patrick Mahomes portion. As far as the really great defenses that we were able to face last year with the Broncos and the Texans, and again talking about the intermediate passing game, which is going to be the biggest portion of this. Again, that goes hand in hand with actually having a consistent run game. Hopefully that can come back, obviously, with feeling a little bit better about the interior offensive line, and then also being able to stretch the field deep, which comes back, and horizontally as far as that's concerned, with having Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy on the field at the same time with Rashee Rice, of course. So the other thing was that Mr. CJ wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of AFC Championship game. And the thing that I'm going to talk about here is kind of the theme of Mahomes on these money drives. And I think it's important to talk about this aspect of it because Patrick Mahomes, gets a lot of talk like, is QB wins really a thing, et cetera, et cetera. Josh Allen has had the ball in his hands the last 2 times that they've matched up with the Chiefs. He's had opportunities to go down the field, either tie the game or go up with a touchdown. And both times he left the field down by 3 points that he started the game with. So there is an aspect of, hey, when the ball is in your hands and it comes down to crunch time in the playoffs, can you get the job done? And that's something that Patrick Mahomes has very rarely failed at his entire career, and hasn't done necessarily in recent vintage. And people will point to the Super Bowl, but there really wasn't a chance for that, to be fair. And obviously, we've seen the clutch aspect of it. So we're just going to roll through the last two drives versus the Bills. One a touchdown drive, one a field goal drive. Ultimately, that would be the game-winning field goal. And we'll start in here with a little bit of Patrick Mahomes scramble, which is an aspect of his game that obviously he turns up to a different level when we get down to playoff time, because obviously he feels like it's necessary to do so. Let me see if I can rewind this. Yeah, I just wanted to get to I always feel like whenever a quarterback scrambles, I want to go back to the top of the drop and see if there was somebody open that he ended up missing, just for film purposes, really. Because I think it's indicative and important to say, hey, is this guy scrambling for the right reasons or is he scrambling for the wrong reasons? And so you get the top of the drop, like there's an argument maybe to go ahead and dump this off here. But also there's an argument, do you want to test Hollywood Brown here in this aspect of it, or just say, hey, can we put the guy in conflict? And here he just puts him in conflict and goes ahead, runs it down. And understandably so, where Patrick Mahomes is at in this game, where he's like, I don't really want to create a turnover by having an inadvertent throw in that aspect. And I think that makes a lot of sense too.
And it's first down. Like, in here, there's no need to force it. Get positive yards, make it second and medium, second and short. There's no need to force that throw. So you're already going to be in the positive side of the field anyway. So take the guaranteed yards. You're good enough. And we know Pat loves to run when it's January time anyway. So
I think he's gotten to the point of maturity where he knows you can do too much at certain points in times. And if we're gonna lose, then we're gonna lose on my feet and then with the ball in my hands. So I have no issues, especially when we get to January with him running. If that's what he feels like needs to be done for us to win a game, I trust him in those situations. Pull it down and go for it and get it. That's why I think this game, to me, I think mentally and stat wise, I think it was probably the best game of the year. And I think he saved it for the right moment to get us to the Super Bowl to have a chance to three-peat.
I love having Juju off the bench. He's a classic six man. I know I say this every year, and I started that hashtag Juju catches everything. As much as we love Pat in the clutch, Juju is one of our clutchest players, bro. He cannot catch a ball like a month and then come off the bench and have two of the biggest plays in the playoffs for us. So
I had some great throws.
And this one and the one that started the game. That one beginning of the game was so oh my God.
I'm gonna go back to the sideline copy because I think it's a good thing just to give Juju his flowers like you just did. But shout out to Kareem Hunt here, man, in pass pro. Picks up the blitzer, just erases him off the screen.
Come here, Ron, get out of here. Yeah,
it just so Mahomes has enough time and structure to go ahead and get that ball out. But I do want to go to the sideline cop because hey, this is just about Juju beating guys at the bottom of the screen. This ain't even that boy up there, number 5, getting beat by Juju. this is Rasul Douglas getting beat on that dig route. And again, if you're gonna run man-to-man coverage, you better have a hell of a complement of DBs. This is our wide receiver 4/5 this year. So you better have some great DBs if you want to try and go man-to-man versus these guys this year. And again, this is, even though the left side of the offensive line kind of loses, Joe Turner just dies slowly out there. It's enough time within structure to get this dig off to Juju.
The funny part about this game, man, as soon as Kyer Elam came in, I was like, "Oh,
it's over.
It's over. It is over." Because
I didn't think
Pat's eyes had to light up as soon as he came in the game.
They were cooked. He was out.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
you hate to see injuries, but for him, that was over, bro.
You've got everything available to you as far as the playbook is concerned to be able to attack these guys. And like, hey, yeah, I'm sorry to tell you guys, y'all want to complain about injuries? We had to play Kyer Elam, but guess what? Rashee Rice is out, and we got a backup left tackle in. I shouldn't even say backup, a 4th string left tackle. It should be our left guard.
And y'all play when Tyrann Mathieu went down. I ain't trying to hear that boost.
Kareem Hunt just getting some tough yardage again. The run game last year, it was efficient enough, really down the stretch just to get us to the Super Bowl. But ultimately there was a lot That was left to be desired as far as that's concerned. Let me see real quick. Hold on. Did I? Oh, wait. Hold on. This is going to mess it up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I tried this earlier and it didn't end up working. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to allow me to do it right. Yeah, okay. Because the on the field aspect of it just works, but the completion aspect of it doesn't work for some reason. It's weird. I can't do that. Sorry. I know I'm just playing with the filters, guys. I apologize. Wanted to make sure I grabbed it right. All right, here we go. All right, here's the next password. There we go. Sorry, a little troubleshooting in the middle of there we go.
Number 5. Number 5's on the field.
Uh-oh. You know what that means.
Bill Kareem Hunt to the bottom of the screen, first down, getting a little bit extra yards. He ended up getting a face mask by Milano there. So this is the start of the next drive. We end up running that in for a touchdown the rest of the way. And just a little dump off again, first down, get a few extra yardage, and obviously Milano makes that mistake and ends up getting extra 15 yards for Hunt there.
Way to get vertical, Kareem.
Their backs and linebackers are late to react, especially trying to react to that motion across the field from Hollywood.
And that's one of the things as far as playing Andy Reid, especially in a playoff game, is concerned. Like, you get to the end of these games, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, guys, we've seen so many things, manner of motions, shifts, bunches. We don't know where these guys are coming from. So you play a little bit of a half step slower and trying to react to some of these things.
Yeah, lots of window dressing once they get into the playoffs.
And there's Travis Kelce, a little out route, and he does what he does best. He finds a little bit extra yardage after the fact.
Clutch drive, man.
Mm-hmm.
They get open
when they need it. So I don't understand. I don't understand. Maybe I'm
a little bit. Get vertical.
You go ahead, DG.
it just kills me because people can sit and watch Mahomes play and see things like this, and I think for a lot of people, it's starting to just become second nature.
Get bored.
They're used to it. Yeah, and you get bored when you see Joe Burrow or Lamar or Josh do it or something like that. Then it's like, oh, okay, he actually stepped up in that moment or whatever. But when Pat does it, it's kind of like, oh yeah, we forgot about that. But these are the drives that are the reasons why none of those guys have rings.
Makes a play when it counts.
Right.
Yep. And once again, you want to play man to man? Good luck running with Xavier Worthy across the field. Teron Johnson, you ain't never had a shot, brother.
Right. Yeah.
Brother.
That mesh is gonna kill you every single time you try and play man to man. More window dressing with Xavier coming across in motion, of course, creates a little bit of confusion here with Hamlin and Bernard. Hamlin is going to end up taking Kelce in man coverage. Milano ends up picking Teron. But actually, that is what I wanted to point out here. Look at where Kelce runs this route. Yep. Doesn't hit him.
Great situation awareness, Trav, because I hate it when receivers, I hate it in college, high school, when you run a crosser or a mesh concept, do not hit the defender. You just got to get in his way. Wait till the last minute and then make him run, make him bubble around you.
Make him have to go around you. Then he hits into Milano, and all of a sudden Xavier Worthy, who already has a head start as far as the speed is concerned, gets even wider. So that's Travis Kelce being Travis Kelce and running the route the right way. And those are the things that gets people on the field, whether it's a Jalen Rose that's coming in or a Juju that stays on the field. Those are the little things that you have to do in Andy Reid's offense to earn his trust to be out there on a consistent basis.
Yeah, exactly. And really, the football nerds are the ones that really notice stuff like that. Casual fan won't notice those kind of things.
No failed screenplay there.
Yeah. They get a bad grip on this one. trying to get it out.
This is a good point. This is a good thing to point out because we may not mention it later on. But shout out to Creed Humphrey, made the adjustment from last season in which he was having issues with the snap. Didn't really see that at all last year.
Absolutely.
From the 93rd ranked player in the NFL.
Crazy.
Little throwaway here. We'll get to. Let me go back to the top of the drop, see if there's anything that Mahomes missed. I think we're just going to get straight man across the board here with a little too high look, right? Well, they dropped 8. Never mind. They ended up dropping 8, a little bit of a spy. And, kind of really what happens here. Von Miller beats him a little bit on the inside. Joe Tooney, he does a pretty solid job as far as pushing him out of the pocket. If Mahomes maybe escapes out this way, there's a chance. But ultimately, the drop 8 coverage works. Everything else is pretty well covered up here. Mahomes forced to throw it away there.
Good D. Just ran a little simple quarters with a spy. These are the times when you need to take advantage of that with like a screenplay, draw, or even like, I know it's the playoffs, use Pat's legs. I know we don't run QB draws ever, but in situations like this, you can take advantage of his legs and make Milano commit and make other guys keep aware of where he's at on the field. So,
yeah, and ultimately, there's not too many plays for third and
drop 9.
Yeah, for 3rd and 17 from inside the 20. So I believe these last 2 plays, obviously the Chiefs are up 3 here. This is after they were able to stop Josh Allen on that 4th down there. They're gonna run a little play action, trust Pacheco to get out in the route, run somebody over, and Pacheco barely stays in bounds, or actually did not end up staying in bounds. They ended up ruling that out. He did not stay in bounds. This is indicative of what happens. Like, end of the day, they're going to trust Patrick Mahomes with the football. They're going to trust Patrick Mahomes with the football to be able to convert these moments. Does a great job in the play design. DeMar Hamlin's going to be the one responsible for Isaiah Pacheco out of the backfield. He's going to get caught up in all the trash. Is that no Gray? No, it's Justin Watson. Again, another little underrated aspect of it. Justin Watson doing a really good job just getting his way. That's all you got to do, and Pacheco finishes the pass play very effectively with a hard-nosed run. But again, these little things, Justin Watson is obviously off this team. We'll talk about that with the wide receivers. Who steps up to do those little things is going to be the key for getting these guys on the field. And we'll go ahead and see this last one, the Samaje Perine that ultimately sealed the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. And it's just going to be the simple, hey, we're going to run all of these guys up here this way, and whoever out of these 3 guys is responsible for him is going to get caught. And that's a simple aspect of the play. 43, you're responsible. Good luck dodging 6 bodies.
Too much.
P. Ryan is able to get
Break
that angle.
First down.
Finishes inbounds, finishes with the first down, and that's the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. So ultimately, just a little bit of a clutch drive talk and major takeaway as far as this is concerned that I wanted to end off on. Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the league. There's nobody that should be trusted more in those clutch moments, as we just saw, for that reason. And at the end of the day, he has all the magic, all the talent that, made him that best quarterback in the league. Just about the surroundings giving him opportunity to do so at this point. So moving on to talk about those surroundings a little bit more, a little bit about the running back depth chart as far as that's concerned. Obviously, still headlined by Isaiah Pacheco. Kareem Hunt comes back on a 1-year deal. They add Elijah Mitchell. Obviously, Brashard Smith also brought in as far as the late round draft pick in the 7th round out of SMU. Brashard Smith brings that explosive element as far as that is concerned. Isaiah Pacheco, has been established as the guy, at the front runner start of this. My question to you guys is, who is the swing player in this position that if they really emerge or they have a healthy season, that you'll feel really great about what this running back room looks like? And is there anybody here that you feel like, maybe is going to end up being phased out of a role as far as that's concerned when you talk about these 4 running backs?
I would say right now is Elijah Mitchell is probably the guy that's probably
out for sure.
Yeah, maybe being close to being phased out. I think Brashard Smith obviously brings the explosion that they're going to need, especially with the pass catching abilities and his ability to be able to run some of those receiving concepts Andy likes to run. I think this year you get a full complement of backfield that gives you different elements Kareem Hunt on short yardage, Pop for kind of change the pace when you need, a guy to come in and, take on 15 or 20 carries or whatever. We all seen what happens when Pop gets a high number of carries and we ultimately end up winning games. So I think Elijah Mitchell is probably the guy that's on the outs as far as this room. And the guy that I think that if he has a good season, I probably would put it's probably Kareem Hunt. If he ends up having a solid season, I think we're doing great things then. But I don't have like tremendous expectations. But I do think Kareem Hunt is gonna be their guy when they get to the goal line or get in those short yardage situations.
For sure. Kareem definitely going to lead us in touchdowns. I expect that again this year. Pacheco's going to be showing to be healthy, go out there and lead in that room and set the tone for everyone. I definitely think Elijah's the odd man out. I think that's kind of obvious. I think he's like a break the glass in case of emergency guy. Knock on wood, we don't want to see anyone get hurt up there in St. Joe, but I think that's kind of what he was brought in here for. We all know we needed speed in this room desperately. We were bottom of the league in explosive plays from our running back room, and I think they just did some recent rankings of the running back rooms, and the Chiefs room was near the bottom, as expected. So we needed Rashard Smith's speed desperately. So I think he's pretty much don't want to say a lock, but a highly good chance he's going to make the roster and be a good part of this offense for sure, especially given his versatility, like DG just said, on third down, red zone, him being a former receiver. We haven't had, I said this on our earlier episode, we haven't had this much speed in that backfield probably since Dexter McCluster. It's been a long time since we've had a guy in the backfield that can really go. Like, he get the ball in the open field, and nobody's really going to catch him if he gets out there. So this is a good thing for us. We've needed this desperately. The last guy we really had the ball that could really take it away probably was Damian Williams, and that was, 2019? That was a long time ago. So it's been a minute since we've had a guy that could really take the ball and go 50, 60 down the field. We needed this desperately. I'm glad he's here. I definitely expect a lot from him this year. I know he's a rookie, so probably won't be that much early on. But I think by the end of the year, after the bye, more importantly, I think we'll see a lot of Rashard Smith in this offense and a lot of explosiveness for sure.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I do think that Isaiah Pacheco is still a good back in this league. It's just about if he's healthy and specifically how he looked kind of prior to injury compared to afterwards. If he's healthy, I think that you can see some really good, another good season from him. 800, 900 yards as far as on the ground is concerned, and then a little bit through the air too. I think Kareem Hunt, like you guys have said, continues to be the short yardage guy, and it really comes down to, hey, how much can Rashard Smith bring what he brought to college, which was as a converted wide receiver, a lot of those receiver skills in the backfield. Can he be a pass protection back? Does he have that in him? Good question. We'll see. Obviously, he's a little bit undersized, but to your point, that explosive element, and that's going to be determined, or that's going to determine whether he gets those snaps or whether Elijah Mitchell gets those snaps as a change of pace with Isaiah Pacheco outside of those short yardage situations. And so it's going to be fascinating. And obviously, how much trust can Rashard Smith earn and how quickly can he do it? In addition to obviously Mitchell staying healthy. But I would love to see Rashard Smith find a way to do that, because if you have the ability for Rashard Smith to emerge in that this year, even in that limited role, then that sets up where next year you feel confident at least in having that aspect in your running back room. And then you're kind of looking for what that lead back will look like post Isaiah Pacheco, if he is gone, or if just bringing Isaiah Pacheco back. So we'll see. That's pretty much it as far as the running back depth chart is concerned. Carson Steele's probably going to make the team as a fullback. If he doesn't make the team as a fullback and they keep extra tight ends, I'm going to be fine with it. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. TG's disgust. Oh, that's hilarious. Always funny. So as far as the wide receiver depth chart, I'm going to start from the bottom and kind of work our way up. Joey asked an interesting question as far as Nico Remigio and the 53-man roster compared to Sky Moore, Tyquan Thornton. And again, this is with the understood that the locks on this roster are Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy as the top three, Jalen Royals and Juju Smith-Schuster as the primary backups in that wide receiver 4 and 5. And then it comes down to a wide receiver 6 competition of Nico Remigio, of Sky Moore, of Tyquan Thornton, of Justin Ross, of Elijah Badger as well, Jason Brownlee. To me personally, and the way that I'm going to couch it, because I think these are really the two big aspects of it, I think that Nico Remigio has the head start. I think Tyquan Thornton is the closest to taking that away from him. Sky Moore and Justin Ross are kind of distant as far as that's concerned. And I would put Elijah Badger as a dark horse, depending on what other people on the roster can do return wise, and then also how well he equips himself during training camp and preseason. Where you guys stand as far as the back end of that wide receiver room?
Feel the same.
Feel the same. Scott Moore's job is in jeopardy this year. I
would say I wouldn't even say jeopardy. I would say that he doesn't have a job. I would say he doesn't have a job right now as we stand.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to be nice about it, but
man, forget what DG said. What job?
Yeah, I don't think Scott Moore is making this team. I would have more high hopes for Tyquan Thornton, just what he can do in special teams game with his speed. Nico Remigio, I wasn't very high on him at first, but over time, seeing what he was able to do in the return game really surprised me a lot. I think that he's a valuable piece to have on this team, especially starting off. Maybe you get to that point where Tyquan Thornton starts on the practice squad, and then later on in the year, maybe after the bye or something, he comes along and is able to provide something for them. Yeah, I think as far as these three guys, Scott Moore is out.
I think Nico is pretty much a guarantee. I don't want to lock it up, but based on what he did last year in the return game, Dave Toll's going to bang the table for one guy. It's probably going to be him. We got our 5 receivers locked up. So if you're wide receiver 6 on this team, it's going to be something you're offering outside of offense. So I think the receiver room is pretty much, the depth chart pretty much made itself. Obviously, guys still have to go out there and improve it on a day-to-day. Knock on wood, you don't want to see anybody get hurt. But as of now, Nico is pretty much solidified as wide receiver 6 for me.
Absolutely. We're going to end up seeing how that camp battle, breaks out. It's going to be one of the biggest ones, and we'll talk about it on a 53-man, roster preview before camp, coming up in 2 weeks as well. So I wanted to talk about that and then kind of go to the rest of the wide receiver depth chart. I think we pretty well agree as far as what this is going to end up looking like for their roles. Obviously, we think Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown will be kind of that primary, Z role, a little bit in the slot, a little bit of X. Obviously, Andy Reid has everybody play everywhere, but them being able to provide that speed element to this offense with Rashee Rice kind of being that wide receiver 1, peppered with targets like we continued to see in the beginning of the season and last season, or I should say the end of the 2023 season specifically, and then the start of the 2024 season before he got hurt. And then, Juju Smith-Schuster relied upon as that solid rock, kind of as the guy off the bench, the 6th man as CJ, referred to doing the dirty work. And then Jalen Royals kind of as that in-between piece. How much can he try and get some snap work? Obviously, he's going to be asked to do more if somebody ends up getting hurt. So one thing I'll ask you guys quickly before we get into Rashee Rice specifically, Hollywood Brown versus Xavier Worthy. Who do you think has a more significant role this year?
Zay. They
use him everywhere. He gets too many touches. I think at some point last year, bro, he was getting 10 touches a game. Like they give him the ball too much, whether it be reverses, screen game, deep shots, like DG said. He's too valuable to the offense. So yeah, he definitely should be the outside of Rashee. He's the touch. Those guys should lead us in touches on offense from like a pass catcher standpoint. Should be Zay and Rashee for sure.
You kind of almost feel like Andy has found his second coming of Deshaun Jackson and Xavier Worthy at this point, just with the speed element and then being able to stretch the field, but a lot of other things that he can do when with the ball in his hands or whatever. So I think Andy is I like Hollywood, and I think Hollywood will get his touches at certain points in times, but I think Zay is more of a focal point. Him and Rashee.
Yeah, and I think that he hasn't been able to really use him like Deshaun Jackson as much as he maybe wants to because of Hollywood Brown's absence throughout the entirety of the year. And obviously Xavier Worthy being absent for the majority of the season, especially down the stretch. So it's going to be an interesting, to see. I think that Xavier Worthy being the answer there makes the most sense. And that's not to say that Hollywood Brown can't have a really good year. I still think he can. But it should be a Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy show with, again, Travis Kelce as a chain mover and Hollywood Brown as that third wide receiver that really can be a speed element to open up other things as well and get the ball on a consistent, occasion. And again, I just want to see more of those crossers, especially those deep crossers with Hollywood Brown, with Xavier Worthy, more of those posts, more of those corners. Those guys have the speed to make those things happen. And the middle of the field is going to be, something that a lot of teams are going to be focused on because of Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce as well. Speaking of Travis Kelce versus the Falcons, this was a tape, kind of requested that we wanted to go through. And I think it's interesting as far as some initial context before we go ahead and get into what is obviously him being peppered with targets and treated like the number one wide receiver. And obviously we saw it versus the Ravens, him have a really good game. We saw him catch the deep shot versus the Bengals. This was really that complete complement of Rashee Rice, inside, outside, being able to do a variety of things for the team. And there are little things here sprinkled throughout. But the one big thing is this is after Kingsley has been pulled off the field, during that Bengals game. Wanya Morris is at left tackle. And I think during this game, they made an emphasis of saying, we're just going to get the ball into Rashee Rice's hands as much as possible because he's our best playmaker right now, the one that we trust the most. And I think that there was a concerted effort to do so. And obviously it starts with Rashee Rice here, kind of finding that soft spot in the zone, being able to settle down in between. The guy making, and picking up some extra yards like he does extremely well, man.
That's a trap route.
That's absolutely a trap route.
That's definitely so. Shout out to Rashee for.
I think this offense would have been so much better if
those first 3 weeks was something crazy. Oh, he was about.
He would have stayed healthy.
Oh my!
This offense wouldn't have had as much trouble as it had last year.
Number 4. I'm so excited to see him back.
I will say again, he was leading the league in yards per route run, and he was also on pace for a amount of explosive plays that would have put him top 3 in the league next to Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, which is only to say like we were using the heck out of Rashee Rice, and
he was bad, bro.
It feels like almost bittersweet to watch the tape back because you're like, what could have been, as DG just said, and he was just getting used so well, and he was performing so well off of it. He makes a little bit of a diving catch here on the outside, and it's just, hey man, it's just you want to see him back. You just want to see him back, and there's another play kind of indicative of, hey, we got obviously a left tackle out here that we're not too sure about. We want to protect that. Let's just have Rashee Rice come on this underneath and, get the ball out of Mahomes' hands quickly here, not even block the edge. Little play action, get the ball in his hands.
I love a good slide route. That's what we call those when we play. Mm-hmm. So you just get the ball quick, get your hands, get up the field. Let Rashee, who obviously we know he's led the league in yak before, can be special like this, man. He had 300-yard games and almost a touchdown every game. He was on pace for 1,200 plus, 10 touchdowns plus. It was going to be a top 3 receiver year, like DMac said. And if you get this guy next to Zay and Hollywood on the backside, good luck trying to stop these guys, man.
Juju runs that route to the perfect depth. Rashee Rice, gets that quick out there, going to turn upfield, get those yards after catching the end zone.
Easy work.
That's easy for Rashee.
I cashed on that play, too. Shout out to Rashee. I was in the building. He cashed me out. I appreciate you, man. Get off me. Great route.
Do you dance, kid? So I'm going to pause it real quick before we get into this. So this is going to be a 3-pack of Rashee Rice's kind of screen passes, and I put these together for a specific purpose. So for this first play, it's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster and Noah Gray. Sky Moore's at the bottom of the screen, which is, that's indicative of where we were at this point in the season. Rashee Rice kind of catches this, and I want you guys just to key in. Once again, Juju and Noah Gray doing a really good job. Juju gets a piece of that initial guy. Noah Gray takes care of the outside guy. It's 1-on-1. Rashee Rice is the level of explosive athlete where if you get the ball in his hands with some space to operate, it doesn't have to be a lot of space, just a little bit of space. You get him 1-on-1 with a DB, he can make that guy miss and be able to create some things. And not only does it make him miss, he makes the edge, he breaks the tackle from the edge on top of that, and then he's also get him out there. So you just got to do your job as far as what the matchups are going to be and allow Rashee Rice, sort of like we talk about with running back or running plays. Hey, we can block this up effectively, and this is where it's designed. Can we get you 1-on-1 with a second-level defender that you got to make miss as far as the running back? And that separates, good running backs from a great running back. ultimately, Rashee Rice is a great yards after the catch guy, and he's going to make one guy miss at the second level and break a tackle on top of it so that they can go ahead and get that first down. And so this is what the screen game is designed to do, to be able to get Rashee Rice in effective situations as far as that's concerned. Once again, Noah Gray doing a really good job taking that initial defender. Travis Kelce, go ahead and go get a little bit of piece of that second level guy. Rashee Rice going to break 2 tackles and go ahead and get some more yards, man. But that's I keep highlighting it for a reason. Noah Gray is a massive piece of this offense because he can do those little dirty work types of things to be able to open up things for the explosive athletes that we got out there.
Ooh, get off. Yeah.
Yeah, he's your chain mover, man.
And these are just some of those easy plays that we missed, like DG said, when we got to the playoff end of the season. Just those walk it to me plays, I don't got to think much, like a bubble screen or a drag route or a slide route. Just give the ball to number 4, let him work, because he's going to do a lot of the dirty work for you to where you don't have to think much in the playbook. So having these easy plays is something we definitely missed, and it's going to be good to see it back on the field this year.
This is AJ Terrell being AJ Terrell.
Yeah, it is AJ Terrell making a great play, but also indicative of, hey, if you don't do your job, then it can kind of look like this, and you know, kind of both of these guys, you know, looking to the inside, neither guy checking for the guy that's coming from depth to be able to make this play. And again, really good job by AJ Terrell. You don't want to take it away from him, but obviously, you know, Noah Gray maybe cracked back to be able to get a piece out of AJ Terrell. Then you know, Rashee Rice has a chance there on that play.
That's Noah's job. He got the best flat route angle to him.
Yep.
Man, most dangerous. Yeah, it should have been Noah. He knows it too. That's why he looked back. Yeah.
Yep.
He knew it was him.
Again, it happens. And so now we go over to this one, which again is indicative. You saw Noah Gray do his job twice, and obviously lead to really good gains for being able to just open up a little bit of space for Rashee Rice here, and then also not being able to do his job there and it not going well. Here we got. I don't remember who this wide receiver is. Give me 1 second.
He does.
It's Juju.
Yep.
Juju and Jared Wiley. Actually, we could just look at it from this end because I think it's important. Again, this is something that we will talk about the tight end room here in a second, but these are the things that are going to get you on the field / on the team. And Jared Wiley, obviously coming off that ACL, we will see, but he was never somebody that was known for his blocking. Noah Gray is somebody that, even though he's not a great blocker, he's a good enough blocker to be used in these situations. And Jared Wiley here simply does not do his job well enough to allow enough space for Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice can make one of these guys miss. You just got to get a piece of one of them. Ultimately, Jared Wiley doesn't really get either of those guys. AJ Terrell cuts him off, makes the tackle, and that's kind of how it ends up rolling out.
Should the closest defender on the white try to go for the corner. Should get the safety. Jesse Bates coming right there in front of you. Just take him. He's right there. Let Rashee worry about AJ Terrell.
Yeah, I was going to say, he ends up taking him out. He can bait AJ Terrell to the outside and cut inside and be able to create that space. So Jared Wiley's got to be better in those moments, more attention to detail. And you may only get one of those opportunities during the preseason to prove yourself in that moment. You have to be ready for those things when you're talking about battling for spots with a Jake Bendingstool, with a Robert Tonyan for the back end of the tight end room. As
I forgot about Big Bob Tonyan. Oh, boy.
Rashee Rice, little return route, open space underneath.
Rashee Rice will feed family this year.
Yes, he will. And he's already elite versus zone coverage, which you'll see here. It's really that continued maturation again versus man. And that's why it's very difficult for teams to play zone coverage versus us, because of the beaters that we already have with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. And that's before you add in the elements of Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown. Little quick slant. Again, Rashee Rice presents a big body to box guys out on those inside routes. He's able to do that pretty easily.
Give me that good catch.
Put him in motion, run a flood concept.
Whoop. Sitting themselves. Night and day from his rookie year to now, like beginning of the season. He's so savvy with those zone routes and knowing where to sit now. It's like pitch and catch now.
Yeah, you can tell the chemistry between him and Pat was definitely growing. I think it's still going to continue to grow. I think Pat is really starting to trust him as that number one guy.
And we do know, like, Mahomes is whatever you want to say, chemistry, vibes, base, whatever. He is a quarterback that when he feels comfortable with a wide receiver, he trusts him to do a lot of different things. And that's an important piece of what he wants to do and operate at the quarterback position. And he certainly feels that way about Rashee Rice. I think he started to feel that way about Xavier Worthy down the stretch too. Feels that way about Juju. But again, hey, we're going to be able to get some underneath stuff, run some deep crosses when Xavier Worthy across the field, going to clear out to AJ Terrell and just get Rashee Rice here going into some open space. Mahomes puts it on the money over the linebacker ahead of the DB and hits Rashee Rice in stride. And we can see that from the reverse angle, just how good of a throw this is from Mahomes. Get over Caden Ellis.
Deep over a great ball.
In stride.
Ball.
The money, and Rashee Rice does it. So, again, peppered with targets specifically throughout this game, is certainly the beginning of the season. Rashee Rice was on an elite trajectory as far as his production was concerned. If he's healthy, I fully expect him to pick up right where he left off and be the number one wide receiver in this offense, or number one option in this offense, period, as far as that's concerned, too.
No knee sleeves during the workouts off season and OTAs minicamp. Saw a couple of touchdown passes from the clips that the Chiefs released. He looked like himself. So if number 4 is healthy, man, like you said, he's gonna be up and rolling.
Absolutely. And so getting into that tight end depth chart, as we were talking about, obviously a little bit different elements. Again, lost Jared Wiley early in the year toward that torn ACL. He didn't really work that much as far as mandatory minicamp is concerned. We'll see where he starts off as far as camp. I believe that some talk about PUP, as far as what that is, it looks like. So we'll see. He may be behind the 8 ball in that sense for his, ACL recovery. Jake School was a UDFA out of Clemson that, made some waves. Obviously, a really athletic tight end, can make some plays with the ball in his hands. Not that great of a blocker, but again, it's going to be key. How much can you pay attention to that little detail that gets you on the field as well? He'll be competing for those spots. Robert Tonyan, again, will also have a chance to compete. And obviously, we know Travis Kelce, Noah Gray as the top 2 as far as that's concerned. The question I got for you guys just really quickly, because we all agree, hey, this is what the back end competition is going to look like. But do you guys, assuming this is Travis Kelce's last year, how do you feel as far as Noah Gray stepping into a tight end 1 role, assuming that this wide receiver core kind of looks how we expect it to look, with Rashee Rice as a true number 1, Xavier looking like a true number 2 complement to that? How do you feel about Noah Gray being a tight end 1, maybe moving into next year, as far as what you've seen from him to this point, after the Chiefs have extended him, obviously, on the contract?
New money, Noah.
I'm good with it. I think that Noah has proven to you that he's capable of doing some of the similar stuff that Trav issue, but also being able to prove to you that he's capable of being a reliable blocker in the run game as well too. So, I'm good with Noah. I don't think he's going to put up, obviously he's not going to put up the numbers that Travis Kelce was able to give you over his career, but in the same sense, I think that with the complement of receivers that you have coming in now, with him being your tight end 1 option, I don't think you have as much pressure on him to have to put up such gaudy numbers.
Absolutely. I think Noah's good for, as a tight end 1, he can get you anywhere from 500 to 600 plus yards a season. And for this offense, I'm much more comfortable with it, like DG said, when you have guys like Hollywood, Rashee, Zay in front of him. And even when next year, when we happen to, obviously this is the last hurrah for 87, and I know it's a Hall of Fame career, and if he happened to be the last dance, then obviously Noah will be the guy next year, and then this most likely means we'll probably move on from guys like Hollywood and or Juju. So that means Jaylon will be required to step up more next year. But regardless of the fact, we said 2 years ago, before the whole 23 season with the drops that we dealt with, we have to find a way to get more talent in that receiver room post Tyreek Hill. And the fact that 2 years later, now we're sitting here with guys like Rashee Rice and obviously Xavier Worthy, I'm much more comfortable to say, if we had to move on from Travis Kelce for retirement, I'm much more comfortable with the room we have now compared to where we were 2 years ago. So I think VJ's done a hell of a job with that room. And I think the tight end room can be even more athletic with guys like DMac said earlier, with Stool, who can be a steal, a late gem that we got in under the UDFA. And obviously predicated all on Jared Wiley's knee. If he's healthy, that's another explosive guy for us as well. So I love the talent we have behind Noah. I think it'll be a good room going forward. But most importantly, like DG said, with the receivers you have on rookie contracts for the next 3 to 4 years, you have obviously Worthy locked up for another 4. You have Rashee for another 2, and then you got Jaylon Ward locked up for 4 years as well. So I think the receiver room's in a much better place than it was 2 years ago, which gives you more comfortability moving on from a guy like Travis Kelce, which obviously there's no replacing him. 87 is one of the best ever. But I think just now we're in a better place to do so than we were last year.
Yeah, I think that if these things go how we expect them to, as far as the wide receiver room really leading this passing game, is that as far as that's concerned, see some growth for Jalen Royals in his rookie year, and Xavier Worthy again taking that step to be that number 2 complement with Rashee Rice. Then I think you certainly are in a place in which no grades a serviceable tight end one. That doesn't mean that you don't want to draft another tight end to add to the room or try and get somebody in free agency. Absolutely, because you always want to try and find those ways to see where you can add talent, certainly, and especially where we're at a point in our offense where being able to have multiple tight ends that you can trust is a really big piece of it too. So always want to continue to do that, but I kind of agree with you guys' assessment as far as that's concerned. And look, guys like, guys like Jalen Rose, guys like Elijah Badger, guys like Nico Remigio, Tyquan Thornton, those guys, if they can step up a little bit to add that depth to the wide receiver room, then you feel kind of confident in what these weapons can look like moving forward as far as the passing game is concerned. Obviously, of course, none of it ultimately matters if you can't keep the quarterback clean. We're going to start with the tackle depth chart. This is going to be a major piece as far as camp is concerned, coming down to the conversation about left tackle. Now, ultimately, we are going to go through a little bit of Jaylon Moore film, just looking at some of him versus some elite, edge rushing and pass rushers as far as that's concerned, because I think it's interesting to look through, indicative of some of the things that, he brings to the table. But we know Jawan Taylor's at right tackle. We obviously know Wanya Morris is kind of pseudo behind him at right tackle, and they're just kind of sticking around out there, but he could end up moving inside. We'll see as far as that's concerned. We know Ethan Driscoll is still out there, as a developmental player that's been on the practice squad. We know Drew Godric has been in the international player program aspect of it throughout the entirety of really the last 2 years, and he will be back there a third year. We'll see him and see his progress during preseason. One guy that I do want to point out, and the guy that I'll be watching really closest throughout preseason that doesn't really have a chance to start as far as his tackle room is concerned, is Esapoli, that we got out of Washington State. He was a guy that I liked a lot. And as far as the draft process was concerned, as a late round flyer, he's a UDFA who used to play basketball, big kid, extremely athletic, has some really good pass blocking chops. The Washington State offense put a lot on the tackle's shoulders to be able to do that, and he performed very well as far as his ability to prevent pressures. So hey, if he comes out and is effective during this preseason, he can push a guy like an Ethan Driscoll maybe off the roster, off the practice squad, or a guy like Wanya Morris maybe off the roster too. We'll see. Maybe a little bit ambitious, but ultimately Essa is somebody that I want to be in Kansas City for years to come, because I think at the very least he can develop into a very good swing tackle in the future. The only thing that, before we get into the tackle conversation, or I should say get into the tackle film with Jaylon Moore, Jawan Taylor's going to be given the shot at right tackle. I don't think that there's really a chance for Moore to be able to take that job from him during the preseason. But it does sound like there's going to be a little bit of a quick hook as far as that's concerned, which, hey, we'll see if that ends up happening versus the preseason as far as that's concerned. But anything else you guys want to mention before we go ahead and start this Jaylon Moore film for the tackle position?
Nah, I guess my only hope would be that if Josh Simmons is remotely healthy, you'd be able to get something out of him, then I think you're obviously cooking with something that will obviously help this offense be able to move the ball a little bit better and keep Mahomes a little bit better protected this year. So that's ultimately what I think they're banking on at this point. I'm hoping that he's healthy.
Obviously, DG was skeptical of the Josh Simmons pick, throughout the first round. He seems to be healthy, seems to be on the right track. Like I said, I thought that he would have been the top 5 pick if he was healthy throughout the entirety of last season. If they feel like he's in a good place, I would not be surprised to see him as the starting left tackle from day one. It's just the same thing as I said last year. Let him continue to play and work through any growing pains that he has, and then, stick with him. And then hope he stays healthy, of course.
For sure.
So a little bit of Jaylon Moore tape, just, a little bit of quick things. You're going to see a lot of him versus Chris Jones, specifically in this matchup in 9-5, you're going to see out there. Then you're also going to see a lot of him versus Jared Verse, because I included some of the Rams matchup in that aspect of it. And really kind of pay attention. He has a really good anchor. He's able to kind of settle down against power. He's still a little bit susceptible, side to side. There are some guys that could beat him with some quick speed moves to the outside. A little bit of hand fighting. He has good hand placement, but sometimes he can be out leveraged as well. And look, I specifically included the plays versus the best of the best because it's indicative just of how well he can perform versus, really talented edge rushers, whether it's Chris Jones or Jared Verse, as far as that's concerned. And then one aspect of he was able to take some more aggressive sets for the Niners, and I hope that's something that he can bring over to playing against the Chiefs because I want him to continue to do so. I think we need to get better as far as our tackles at attacking these edge rushes rather than just allowing them to come to our chest as well, as far as that's concerned. But that one there versus Chris Jones, you see, obviously he allows Chris Jones to get a little bit inside, hits a little bit outside as far as Chris Jones with his hand placement. Jaylon Moore is there. You see that initial one on his bicep. And Chris is able to use a little bit of that leverage to get around the edge, but Jaylon Moore, stays in a little bit long enough just for Brock Purdy to get to the check down there.
Yeah, I think he does a good job with his drop step, getting out there and being able to get pass rushers up the arc. Something that we I think both Wanye Morris and Suamataia kind of struggled with last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, he's a good athlete, not a great athlete, and sometimes rushers can take advantage of that. But it's one of those things. And here he a little bit oversets, gets caught with a little bit off leverage, and Jones uses that swim move to get inside. Of course, right, the left guard ends up helping out a little bit there to slow him down though on the way to the quarterback.
I mean, when he's in matchups like these against guys that you know are the best in the league, I think you gotta kind of have to play with some grace a little bit.
Win some, you're gonna lose.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like that, boy.
Chris Jones swiped his hands down there, was able to get out to the edge. Purdy got the ball out of his hands and a good job though. Is that Ronnie Bell? Is that who it was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was.
KC, Ronnie.
Yeah, shout out to Ronnie Bell. One thing I will point out here with Jared Verse, it has the ability to do a lot of different things as far as a pass rusher is concerned. Extremely talented young player, like legitimately one of the most talented young players in the National Football League. Key thing about Verse is he is the Marshawn Lynch as far as defensive ends is concerned. He is really good at running through an MF's face, and he likes to do it over and over and over again. And I point that out because Jaylon Moore was somebody that didn't really fall too victim to that on a consistent basis as well. And I thought that was important to highlight that he was able to deal with that power effectively, and neutralize it on more often than not. Here he does a good job again, taking that initial punch, just pushing him up the arc there, giving Purdy a clean pocket to operate from. Going to see Verse here come from depth, and then try and get that bull rush working. And Moore just goes ahead and sits down in his anchor, neutralizes that pop.
Put those hands back inside, way to front back. Good rep.
Yeah, does a good job stalling out there. Go ahead, CJ.
No, put his hands back in place. Because Verse did the same thing Chris did. Everybody's trying to fight for position. So his hands are initially inside. Then he just, not this play, but the one previously. But no, it's just a good job of sitting and replacing your hands. Gaining back the leverage. But we can go.
Yeah. He just tries to swim. And again, he does have good hand placement. It's a little bit inconsistent, but he does make the most of it there. Here against Byron Young, not Byron Young, he tries a long arm, but just doesn't have enough momentum there. Going to get Verse here, kind of a little bit of a reduced set. Again, right to that bull, tries to use a little, not necessarily speed to power, but more power to speed in the opposite way. Tries to shake him off up top. And Jaylon Moore does enough just to push him around the arc, allow Purdy to step up and get the ball off. Trying to get back to the start of it. Yeah, there you go. Initial two-hand push. More angers up to make sure it doesn't end up getting too far deep. And then has enough athleticism to push him around the edge there.
Make him run that hoop. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Another reduce it.
Yeah, I'm just glad that we got somebody at a swing tackle that can play and has good feet and is a decent athlete, to say. Sense so
we kill that. We don't want
making guys run up that arc. I think if you give Mahomes a little bit of time and at least decent comparable tackle play, the sky's the limit for this offense going forward.
Just need that extra second, man. That's it. Or half second.
Ver-
That's all you need.
Verse does a good job swiping away that initial strike to his chest from Moore, but Moore does enough again to use his feet, get underneath him, just push him up that arc there, even with the long arm, and getting hit from behind at that. So that Verse, he gets a hands on Purdy, to be fair, but it just doesn't significantly affect the throw there, and is able to get that out to Jennings.
Yeah.
Verse again coming from depth here.
Good punch, good sit.
Yep. Again, just trying to use that power on the outside, and Moore does a good job kind of absorbing it, sitting down in that anchor, making sure it doesn't lose too much ground there.
Yeah.
Even on the inside move.
This game was extremely ugly too. I remember this game.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it was.
Good pass off.
First doing a little shimmy.
He didn't fall for it. Kept his head out of it. There you go.
Good strength here, not to give up that inside as Versus trying to do a little, not necessarily full hump move because he's not inside of him like Reggie White, but use that arm to try and shove him aside, and ultimately Moore sticks with him. Again, Versus trying to set him up for that power, just kind of sits in it and pushes him up the arc, and Purdy makes it a little fast.
All good quality reps for Jaylon Moore. As I say, I don't expect spectacular things from him, but just to be, if he can be a quality swing tackle, play to the side and just give us comparable tackles.
Better than what we had last year.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
that's all I'm asking for.
All we need.
Those were the true dropbacks that he had versus Chris Jones versus Jared Verse, and those were the reps in which he was able to play very well. And like you said, at worst, he's going to be a significant upgrade as far as the swing tackle position than we had last year. You play left and right, and if he's the starting left tackle, I could see it working out at least until they feel comfortable putting Josh Simmons out there too. So we'll see how that progresses, obviously throughout the offseason. I shouldn't say offseason. It's throughout training camp. There you go. That's what I was looking for. Finally, with the interior offensive line, and specifically, we're going to talk about Kingsley Suamataia. I will give a quick update because I saw this as we were live. Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest, who obviously covers the Chiefs, did say that he does not expect Trey Smith to ultimately sign an extension, and he expects him to play this year on the franchise tag. Now, that's just what Matt Derrick says. Last we had heard from Nate Taylor over at The Athletic. He said that he expects it to get done. He said he was about 85% sure. That was of last week, obviously before the July 4th holiday. Once again, 7 days out, technically, from the July 15th deadline for the Chiefs and Trey Smith to reach a deal. I'm still, confident in them getting done. I don't have any inside information, though, so you take that with a grain of salt. But I think deadlines make deals, and I think that they'll end up getting this done. But I do think that's a worthwhile update to go ahead and give as we give a little Trey Smith a watch. And obviously, in a week's time, is next Tuesday the 15th? I guess technically it would be, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. A week from today.
So in a week's time, obviously that deadline will be 4 p.m. So the next time that you guys hear from us, we'll have an answer on if Trey Smith has a contract or not.
So we're
going to see. We are going to see. But just to end this off, I did want to go through just the Kingsley Suamataia film really quickly. And there's only a few of these snaps that we had actually true dropbacks to go off of, specifically going after Zach Allen, who had a really good year for the Denver Broncos as an interior pass rusher. And again, because Jaylon Moore is a good athlete playing tackle, Kingsley Suamataia is a great athlete playing tackle. He's going to be a really great athlete playing inside at guard. And so that is important. Good hand fighting here to just stay in front of Allen, not give him any, specific way, not falling for any fakes, being able to play with. The biggest, key for Suamataia is really just going to be about, can you deal with power on a consistent basis? And if you can, then you can survive at left guard. If you can't, then it's going to be difficult. And this is what I'm talking about as far as dealing with power, because Allen tried to do the hand fighting, shimmy thing. And he's like, oh, this guy's a tackle. I need to go ahead and try and run through his face. Suamataia gets a little bit pushed back here initially and struggles to anchor up there afterwards. So that's going to be the key thing for Suamataia, surviving at left guard. Can you deal with power on a consistent basis? And if you can, then he can do well. And the good thing is, it seems like the rhetoric and the mandate was handed down pretty early as far as this was concerned. Hey, we're going to be moving you into left guard and kind of keeping you there. So hopefully he has trained accordingly to be ready to deal with that level of power on a more consistent basis as well. One other key thing, and I think this may be the snap or maybe the next one. We'll see. No, okay. So one other thing about his athleticism specifically being here, those reach blocks, being able to get out, whether it is truly as a pulling guard or kind of screen passes or on some of these RPOs, him being able to get in front of these interior defensive linemen, I think is going to be important for a run game aspect of it. Here he does a good job at kind of sealing off his matchup. And ultimately, there's a run hole there. Obviously, we end up, Winston's up throwing out there. But just wanted to mention that as a little thing as far as the run game is concerned that he's going to end up helping out with. And this is indicative of some things that showed up a little bit on tape. He did miss some of the stunt opportunities here. He sticks on Allen maybe a little bit too long, doesn't get out there. Obviously, Norzad is there inside to help out. And this is one of those things where having Creed Humphrey instead of Norzad will help, but also Norzad I thought had a pretty good game. Saw some good film from him. So I feel good about him being our backup center this year as far as that's concerned, which is nice. You know, you always want to have depth as far as that's concerned when we talk about the interior of the offensive line. Obviously, Caliendo and CJ Hansen expected to be back. We'll see if Wanya Morris factors into the guard position as well. But ultimately, Suamataia has to get comfortable with dealing with those defensive stunts from an interior position rather than the tackle position. Dealing with that power, trying to get to that inside shoulder. Does a good job getting back in front of him.
Stay on your feet, son.
Yeah, try and stay on your feet, especially because you got a looper coming around here as well, trying to get past you. As far as 98 is concerned,
having the athleticism should help him out in there. But yeah, definitely gonna have to be improving in taking on some of those bull rushes and power in the inside.
Get a little stronger.
Got to get that anchor together, big fella.
And again, the last few years here with Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith, it's been an offensive line on the interior that's always provided really clean pockets for Patrick Mahomes to step up into and feel comfortable about. Kingsley Suamataia is a massive piece of making sure that continues as far as that's concerned. Does a good job here, kind of dealing with that power with a little bit of help at Hunter Norzad, and so he's going to be a massive piece of what this offensive line looks like. And again, power aspect and kind of dealing with some of those stunts, he's got to be ready to take on. And if he is, then this interior offensive line will be really good once again. If he's not, then we'll have some issues because then you're back to maybe Caliendo, maybe Wanya Morris, maybe even Hunter Norzad. Do you guys have a preference as of right now? Because I'll be honest with you guys, Caliendo was terrible in my personal opinion. That's just me. As far as
guard,
as far as a backup guard right now.
Backup.
Yeah, backup.
Yeah.
Out of those three, Wanya.
Yeah, or I mean, to me, it's probably Norzad or. I mean, I don't mind Caliendo as a backup, especially in some spot situations or whatever. But if they're going into the season thinking he's going to be a full-time starter, I think they got issues.
Yeah. I would agree that they have issues. I mean, Wanya Morris, it'll be, I think the biggest thing as far as the offensive line, really in general, coming into training camp is going to be where the Chiefs choose to play these guys is going to be a massive piece of this. How many reps does Jaylon Moore get at left tackle versus right tackle? How many reps does Wanya Morris get outside compared to inside? Is Hunter Norzad the primary center point blank period? Is he getting some guard reps? Are they just trusting CJ Hansen and Mike Caliendo at that guard position? Are they getting Wanya Morris inside? Who are the tackles? Is it Drew Godric? Is it Ethan Driscoll? Is it Wanya Morris? As far as backup is concerned, is it Esapoli? So that it's going to be a lot to see as far as what those offensive line rotations look like as we get into training camp specifically. Anything else to add as far as the offensive line in general is concerned, guys?
Man, hopefully it comes all together. Like I said, if Josh Simmons can be healthy and provide you a future comparable left tackle play, I think the sky's the limit for this offense.
Jaylon Moore, you're probably the most important or one of the most important men in Kansas City, son. The longer you do your job, the better you are. The longer Josh has to rehab and be 150%, which is when most of us want him out there. So, Jaylon, the better you play, the better we look as a team for him going forward. So,
And we see you certainly got to win the job to start out. Next week, we will be getting into the defensive guys. Obviously, defensive edge position, defensive edge. We'll be getting to the edge position, defensive end specifically in Spagnuolo's team, defensive tackle, cornerback, safety, and linebacker as well. And we've got some George Karlaftis film, some Jerry Tillery film, some Trent McDuffie film, and some Jaden Hicks film to discuss as well. So I'm looking forward to that as far as the defensive side of the ball. After that, we're going to have our, kind of 53-man roster show, and then we'll be right into training camp. So next week, obviously you see at the bottom of the screen, we are now on Trey Smith watch. It is a week until that deadline is coming up. We will see if we have a new Trey Smith deal to discuss and the implications of that. I do have another little bit of a topic as far as Rashee Rice is concerned for next week too, and then one fun one too. So a lot of things on the docket. Obviously, we are inching closer to St. Joe. We appreciate you guys for coming in and tell the truth. DG, CJ, anything before you go ahead and get on out of here?
Go Chiefs.
Nope. Good to go. Peace out. Go Chiefs, y'all.